Hi everyone, and today we have some interesting conversation planned. We are exploring some of the issues which you might face while you manage some of the agile-based approaches, some of the projects using agile-based approaches. So I have a participant and he would like to discuss something around that. Now, before we talk about it, why don't you give a brief introduction about yourself so that we can relate to your background?
Yeah. Hi, Saket. Thank you. And I appreciate that you responded to my emails that I sent you about the issues that I'm facing in my recent new journey in the new position. About me, I am a project manager since 2008, and I have got my PMP certifications from 2007, and it is in good standing. So I renew it every 3 years, and it is due in this year as well.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I continued my journey into learning into more into the project management and this SDLC different. So since the agile came to life and more the company started exploring, I started my learning into, and then I was, since 2012 I got a chance to manage the agile projects, and then I got certification to certified scrum master, scrum product owner, and a safe agilist.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So I was working with a service-based company, IBM. So there is no hiding about it. And there I got a lot of chance to learn and then do hands-on and implement these agile practices.
Okay.
Then I was with a small company for a short duration of couple of years, where it was a product-based company and it was already matured, agile, and having the Scrum practices being implemented. So recently I have joined an organization which is a 30 years old organization, and they have been practicing the traditional waterfall life cycle and management and the PMBOK kind of pure management style. And now they have decided they would like to go for the agile and Scrum implementation. So it's a purely product-based company, development-based.
Great.
Developing the products. Yeah.
So I would say that it's a great opportunity for you because see, agile transformation and agile coach as a profession is quite popular nowadays. And whatever you do in your current assignment, first it will help your client, the company, and as well as it helps you to grow in the direction of coaching and transformation. Great. So what kind of things you want to discuss today?
Okay, so as I explained, since this is an organization have been practicing and doing great work for last 30 years, have delivered the projects, and it's a product-based company, so they deliver the versions every quarter, every 1 quarter, with the upgrades, defect fixes, etc. It's a standard practice, but they also got a change in leadership. So they want to, the new leaders who came, they come from the CA, which is the owners of the producers of Rally software. So few of those guys are interested to implement the Agile. And then that is how they are inducting Agile coach or the change agents. So I am one of them. And the challenge, the first year is that the change of mindset, because people are doing it for last 5 years, so many years, and they're saying, yes, we have done it. And so it's about having the buy-in. That is about then the tool has been acquired is the Jira Cloud with Portfolio. Now there are the debates that's happening, and these people, they also got one agile coach who's to be joined a year ago. And then he said that since we are not matured enough, we'll instead of doing the story point estimation, we will use our previous estimation, which is in the terms of efforts, that is man days. And Jira does allows that man days effort estimation. Now, this is all good. You can do estimation in man days. And then the Jira has the dashboard, which also says remaining time estimates versus actual efforts has been same, instead of stories completed. So that dashboard is there. And here then comes the question, if we are estimating the work in the man days and having capacity of 7 developers or 9 developers for that reason, and 2 weeks of sprint. So if I have 9 people, I have 90% days as a capacity. But now the debate is happening. We have the planning efforts, which is half day of the first day in the sprint, and the review, at least 1 hour happens in the end of the sprint. 2 hours we spend on the retrospectives. Okay. In addition to that, 10 to 15% of efforts are being spent on the product backlog refinement. Now, where do we record these efforts and how do we estimate these efforts for the sprint?
Okay. So now, before I talk about what do we do in Agile, I go back to project management and PMP things.
Right.
And if we talk about that, when we talk about, because your clients are kind of project management people, so there are 3 types of effort the PMBOK talks about. One is a direct effort, another is the discrete effort, if I'm not wrong, and the third one is a level of effort. So one is the direct effort, means you do coding, you do the real work, so you produce something. And another one is that you validate, you check is the right thing has been produced. So you put an effort into it. And the third one is that you do project management and monitoring and controlling activities around that, so that make those things possible.
Correct.
Now, this problem which we are discussing is about a level of effort problem. Like, okay, where do we put our level of effort activities? Now, in project management, it's not easy to identify the effectiveness of the level of effort activity. For example, you spend 1 hour in a sprint planning meeting. Just spend it. Now, what do you do? Is it done or not done? It's done. 1 hour spent. Now, did we really achieve what we wanted to achieve in a sprint planning meeting? It's difficult to measure. For example, if you're working on a one story, it gets done when the definition of done get met, and you know how to validate it, and then you produce a desired velocity by adding something, and at the end, so you know what is happening. So level of effort is overall effectiveness of the sprint. So are you doing good sprint planning? Are you doing good daily scrum? Are you doing good reviews and retrospective? If you do good, your overall sprint velocity will be good. Your overall environment and producing value would be good. So that's the expectation. So this is how you can measure the effectiveness of level of effort activities by looking at direct things, like whatever you are doing directly, that is something you can do it. Now, how do you track it? In many project management companies, they do create a one activity where people just put hours against sprint planning for a whole sprint, or for a daily scrum, which is primarily just to show that, okay, we do have that capacity. In general, when you do capacity based planning, so rather than taking 10 days as an available capacity, you minus the level of effort time, and you only take, say, 8 days or 9 days, depending upon whatever is available for planning the execution related work. So that you can say the remaining went into planning and monitoring, and you have an execution effort. Planning and monitoring, you just allocate time and you put the hours against it. Effectiveness of planning and monitoring is measured based on what kind of output you are generating in that particular sprint. So this is something you can do. Does this make sense to you?
So create one activity or the task where all the people would log their efforts, whatever the work they have done, and while we do an estimation, and then we have a available capacity. So instead of saying 90% days of capacity for 2 weeks, let us measure how much we are going to put into sprint planning, reviews, retrospectives, and the refinement work also. And then subtract all that, and whatever is remaining, say for example, if my remaining days is 55 days or 65 days, that becomes my available capacity.
For the
the
development.
production work.
Yeah, for the
Yes,
production work. Yes, yes, yes.
perfect.
And if you want to give a reference and other
Yes,
things, even in a scaled agile, when they talk about doing capacity based planning, they do share that,
yeah,
and that kind of a calculation. And if you want to look into project management, I think you can give a reference to level of effort word,
okay,
which is coming from PMBOK. And even this also is kind of related with earned value management, because
yes,
it was always difficult to calculate earned value for the level of effort things, because you don't know
yes.
have you really earned that part. So why I am sharing all this is that sometimes your project management people may want to look at that kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, this one gentleman is telling that he want from the Jira dashboard, he wants to see what is his capacity,
Hmm.
the team size, and then how much work has been planned for them, and what is the unutilized or overutilized capacity.
Yeah, so they may have their reasons which we can
Correct.
explore in the similar way, but
Yes.
level of LOE is a quite so there are three types of effort. Apportionate effort, I use the wrong word, discrete effort. So it's an
Yes.
apportionate effort, is something which is an indirect effort, and the
Yes.
level of effort here we are talking about it. Okay, great.
Perfect.
So yeah,
Okay, so I think the questions related to this efforts and tracking both we got covered.
good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and then we have a question about release planning,
Hmm.
and it is more about the what should be the part of my release. In the Jira, we have a tool. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead,
So
go ahead. Yeah.
in the Jira, there is an option that we can mark the release. What is your release number? Like 4.2, 4.3, 4.5. And we have a product backlog, which is a huge one, because there are defects. Those are raised by internal QA team. Defects, those are used by customers.
Hmm.
And the new features that have been also suggested by the product owner or coming from the sales or professional teams. Okay, all this has been, yeah, it's a large bucket only.
Sure.
It's, yeah, so it has not been estimated or refined. So now
Okay.
there are two things. The senior management is asking the product owner that, okay, please put, I want to see what is going into the next release. Now the debate here is, when we want to say that what goes into the next release, whether that release tab should hold the issues which are refined and estimated, or can we just dump those issues with the names into the release without having the refinement and estimation.
Okay. See, this all depends upon how much predictability they need in a release forecast. So, for example, when I say these 10 things will get done,
Yes.
if 5 things gets done, does it really matter? If people say no, it doesn't matter, you target 10, even if 5 done, we don't care, then you may not do refinement before planning the release. You just go ahead with it. But if it
Okay.
matters,
Yes.
then you need to
Yes.
do it. Now there are two type of thing which I can understand from your understanding.
Yes.
One is that some stakeholder may want to see how the roadmap looks like. Maybe I want to see how the upcoming 3 releases is going to proceed. What is the
Right.
priority and how we are moving forward.
Yes.
So it's good to create a roadmap
Yes.
where even if some of the features in upcoming 6 months, 1 year are not yet well estimated.
Right.
The another one is that in an upcoming release, so you may have a roadmap for 3 releases,
Correct.
and for second and third release, it is more like a forecast. You just put down something and say that
Yes.
these are the things we probably will end up doing there. But
Okay.
in coming release, which is
Yes.
more committed one, the stakeholders are looking forward to it and they are really hoping this will get done. So
Yes.
the degree to which people need certainty, uh,
Yes.
uh, accordingly you need to do a planning and estimation, and also put some buffering, because if
Yes.
the certainty is needed. So if you
Okay.
really want to know that what all will get done, I should
Yes.
have a reasons and basis to project that.
Okay.
So this is how we can explain to stakeholders that if you need a predictability and certainty in upcoming release, then we
Yes.
may better have a definition of ready for the release, which may
Okay.
have some criterias which gives us enough confidence that we know what we are talking about. We know how
Right.
deep it is, and we can do some real forecast.
Yes.
If it is just like a direction, if you just want
Hmm.
to know, okay guys, how
Hmm.
are we proceeding, it is more about prioritization, it's more about the approach, then it could be without estimate, without very fine grained estimate. It could be at a rough order of magnitude estimate. You can figure out
Yes.
the way you want to do it, and by using rough order of magnitude estimate you may plan your roadmap, but not necessarily the upcoming release.
Okay. Right. So the here the situation I'll tell you. The release that was in going on, there was a large bucket of the things that have been planned. Then after doing a 3 sprints, it has been realized that we are not able to do these many bugs. Actually, the stories have been taken. Whatever the priority P1 on P2 has been taken. Okay, 3 we are going to reduce in the last sprint. The PO has gone and removed 30 to 40 bugs and saying that, okay, not in this release.
Mhm.
The management want to see the immediate release as good prediction with the scope and schedule, and the rest of the next 2 or 3 releases are just a roadmap for the year.
Yeah, so that's like something like this. Now whatever is coming in the next release, you need to
Yes.
spend some time planning for it, because without doing planning, maybe in the form of estimation, in the form
Yeah.
of dependency visualization, you need to do these two things primarily. One is how long it is going to take, and do we have a skills and teams available, and how
Right.
teams are dependent on each other if there are more teams, because sometimes even if
Yeah.
it's a small effort, but because of dependency it may not get done. So
Right.
dependencies and estimation
Yeah.
is something is kind of minimum thing you need to explore in
Yeah.
order to make a predictable release plan.
Perfect. Okay, so we are talking about the skills and the availability of the stakeholder, the technical teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
technical
here
teams.
the next challenge I would love to hear the advice from you. The teams are small here, and there are some people who are very good and technically sound and expert, and they have some migration team also, and there is one dependent team. So when the bugs from those two streams do come, then the sprint on this work, the currently committed sprint goes on to the back foot. And those priority things, these developers or the QAs have been gets pulled there. So here what happens, this sprint falls behind. So I would ask your advice, because this is a change agent role, and how do I go and proceed about this to have prevent those things happening which are currently happening,
Yeah.
that the sprint team members getting disturbed or getting
Mhm,
pulled
mhm.
into some other work. So in the recent week, all the developers and QAs have been pulled to some other work. So even though the 5 days work planned, 4 days has happened. 4 days were given to other work.
Perfect. So the best, the thing is that we need to make these people sit and give this problem that, okay, how can we avoid this in future? That's the best
Correct.
thing. And they should think about what
Yeah.
could, I can guess is which probably can help. One is some level of joint planning, some level of coordination in multiple teams work, so that dependencies get identified in advance. Now, if it is not a dependency management problem, it's a defect fixing problem, then if it's a once in a while, then it's okay because it's unpredictable. But if it is predictable, you can see some trend that, okay, in general, this much amount of time goes in supporting those kind of thing. Then you start forecasting that in your sprint. So you may reserve some time for production support, for defect fixing, or other team support. Again, it will also further shrink your capacity in your sprint. And
Okay.
that is something can also be planned. I have seen some teams doing is that they do planning for this, and they do it by way of having some less committed work in a sprint. So they categorize the sprint work into category 1 and category 2. Category
Okay.
2 is something which can be dropped if they get pulled into some unforeseen things. So something like that also can help. So
Okay.
these are the possible option, but
Yeah.
the best thing is we need to make these guys sit and talk that, okay, guys, this happened. Now
Yes.
you suggest what can we do to avoid it? Yeah.
Perfect. And this idea I like that we have, and the planning itself, we have two buckets of the issues that we are committed, but there is a one bucket list which is committed and should be done, and there
Mhm.
is another nice to have. So
Something
if
like
the
that. Yeah.
people get pulled out of the efforts, you are getting less people getting pulled out from the sprint, we can easily drop those nice to have things.
Sure, sure. And good daily scrum, good daily scrum, and good scrum of scrum with other teams.
Yes.
So in the effective daily scrum, where we really know how things are going and what do
Yeah.
we do if things are not going in
Correct.
a right track. And
Yeah.
similarly, some coordination meeting with other teams, may not
Yeah.
necessarily every day. It could be once in a week or twice a week, depending upon how much
Correct.
coordination is needed, can help. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am looking at the situation. I am so the work, the emergency defect fixes, or the depend other team which is dependent on this team, those fixes is happening on the arrival basis, like whatever has been come on urgent basis and that has
Hmm.
been pushed, it has been done. So priority is decided by the delivery head, then he will say,
Hmm.
okay, these guys are doing.
Hmm.
So I am trying to propose a Kanban for this support work
Hmm.
and urgent defects fixes,
Hmm.
and a Scrum, purely Scrum for the where we have the new features and enhancements. Would that
Hmm.
approach be helpful?
Yeah, definitely. So many time now, what I hear is that your organization is a 30-year-old, and I believe the product must be little stable enough, and you are doing multiple releases on it. So
Correct.
see, there are two types of work might be happening. One is that you
Yes.
are really exploring something which is innovative in nature, and you want to bring a next generation feature in your product. That's a one
Yes.
type of work. Another
Correct.
type of work is that customers are already requesting so many things. Your sales
Yes.
guys are requesting something, and you just
Yeah.
need to finish it and give it to them.
Yes. Yes.
So
It is the
usually,
scenario.
yeah, usually the second type of work does
Yes.
not fit well with the time boxing approaches. So
Correct.
so how do you start knowing it? Say if everybody is clear what is going to be released and what is going to be delivered, they are not interested in coming to sprint review. So you do sprint review for the sake of your team only. Nobody, not a stakeholders coming in. They are not
Yes.
providing any input. They are asking, just release it. Once it is done, we will see it. That's the one
Okay.
symptom. Another
Correct.
symptom is that you have a feature, you want to
Yes.
divide it and fit into a sprint. Nobody
Yes.
cares about it. People only care when the whole feature gets done, and this is okay, give me when the feature is done. I don't want to
Right.
see in between. So
Correct.
when you start seeing these kind of trend, it means
Yes.
the stakeholders and teams has a
Yeah.
fair understanding of what they are doing,
Correct.
and this fair understanding is making them capable enough to finish the feature and release it rather than taking feedback in between in most of the time. Now,
Right.
and they don't care about progressive like periodic feedbacks. They only want quick releases. As soon
Yes.
as feature gets done, I want to see it in a production. I don't care anything else.
Right.
So in such scenarios, designing a process and using some Kanban tools to make it predictable makes sense. So I would say it's another process. So
Yes.
you need to design something, because Kanban is not a ready-made process like Scrum gives you some ready-made things.
Correct.
You need to design your things, and you may take some of the Scrum ideas there.
Correct. Yes.
But my experience, when the time boxing starts bothering you rather than
Yes.
adding value, then it
Yes.
may be a time to get rid of time boxing and do something which is a flow based work.
Yeah, so the other kind of work, what I told, at least 30% of the people are all the time doing the other kind of work, the dev
So
and QA.
yeah,
So I am proposing a Kanban would be good for them.
yeah. So you design a process. So the problem is by just saying Kanban should be used, we
Yeah,
don't get clue what will happen. So
correct.
you says that we design a process and then
Yes,
we use Kanban tools of visualization and
correct.
matrices like monitoring lead times and other things to
Yes,
make the thing limiting work in progress to make the things
yes,
move. But you need to design the process. So design the
correct.
process means you need to decide at what frequency the prioritization will happen. You need to
Yes,
decide at what frequency you will do releasing. What
yes,
is the definition of getting started? What is the definition of finishing?
correct.
So all those things need to be designed.
Yeah,
For innovative work where they are exploring and the customer is little away
yes,
and nobody knows how things will work out, people
yes,
are interested in coming to your demos and reviews, and they are providing lots of feedbacks, and you see the direction of the product changing sprint by sprint. Those kind of places the scrum is the best thing to do. So it's better to time box, else people will remain confused for long,
yes.
and it's better to fit things in that particular time box and invite people for reviews. So that's the type of work which I believe a time boxing is suitable. Yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. So these were the questions I had.
Good.
Those
Yeah.
I wrote you on the email, and the expert advice about the current situation.
Great,
Uh,
great. It was nice talking to you, Deepak. Uh, um, okay, and other thing is that we also put this thing on our YouTube.
right,
So the good thing about that is that we may get some more ideas from our participants who watch these videos. They may say, okay,
correct.
this is something I can also suggest. So do take a look at our YouTube
Yeah,
comments once they come in.
sure.
Yeah.
Please send me the link for this video when it has been put. So I'll keep observing that.
Sure. Thank you for
Thank you,
spending time.
Saket.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, bye.
bye.